Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and Witcher Season 3 is very, very close at this point, and we're finally getting some behind-the-scenes first looks at some of these new characters, settings, scenes, locations, and monsters for this upcoming Season 3, even stuff that'll come in Volume 2, coming later out at the end of July. A lot of interesting stuff. Let's jump right into it and react to these new photos put out by the Redanian Intelligence and IGN. So we have this first one that'll include looks at Milva, Radovid, and others of the cast. So this is Milva from the Witcher books. She is a canonical character. Yes, absolutely. She is a woman who lives with the Dryads. She hasn't become a Dryad, which is an interesting thing, but she kind of bridges the two worlds of humans and Dryads. She's a very interesting character. She is very, very prominent in Baptism of Fire, which is my personal favorite book, which is the next one set supposedly to be adapted by this TV series. So she's going to be very important going forward, but she does have a slight role at the end of this season, at the end of Time of Contempt. They did race swap her. It looks like she's going to be Asian, but she's fine. She looks fine, as well as can be expected from the Witcher Netflix universe. Her costume is fine. It looks cheap as hell, but it at least looks like something that someone would wear in the forest versus what the Scoia'tael are wearing in Season 3. And now we have a look at Hugh Skinner as Prince Radovid, which is Jaskier's boyfriend, who was aged up from being a 13-year-old boy just to be old enough to date Radovid. And apparently he's going to be a clumsy buffoon rather than the calculating mastermind, who is quite insane that we see in The Witcher 3, which isn't in the same continuity as this. Netflix doesn't have the rights to that, so of course they have the right to portray him any way they want because he's not that prominent of a character, but I do have a problem with the way that they're portraying him overall. Now, this is a look at another bard who's kind of a competing bard, Baldo Marx, and yeah, that's quite flamboyant. That's very flamboyant. The mustache is a bit much, if I'm going to be honest here, and from what we've seen in the first two seasons and from the behind the scenes and the first looks and the teasers and trailers from this season, they seem to believe at Netflix that black people are only allowed to have 3 hairstyles: afros, dreadlocks, and shaved heads. Those are the 3 acceptable hairstyles for black people, and it comes off as really racist, if I'm going to be honest. It comes off as really racist from Netflix, but we have another example of it right here, and we have other mages. Looks like that's the boyfriend of Yennefer that has a very small role in Sword of Destiny, but they expanded to be this massive, massive character in the TV show. They do that with a lot of these characters. A lot of the characters that you'll see in this TV show only show up for maybe a short story, maybe a few pages, not really all that prominent, but they blow them up to take up so much screen time that they take away from the main characters and the people who should be there, further degrading the quality of this adaptation. But he's still around, I guess. He's still alive. Whatever, it's a weird thing. Then we have Fringilla. She's grown out of her hair. She still doesn't look like Fringilla should. Yes, Fringilla should have short hair. That's funny enough, so they're contradicting that. But from this casting, it's still a problem. Season 1, we know that she's the cousin of Anna Henrietta, and this means that there's not going to be a canonical casting for Anna Henrietta, which is going to be another example of Gingerside. But it doesn't look like she should. She's looking very ratty. She doesn't look like a Nilfgaardian. She doesn't look like she's going to be participating in the Lodge of Sorceresses in the next season like we know she should. This is just a weird look for her, and she doesn't have all that prominence in the story. Yes, she does a lot of the stuff, but we don't actually see her do a lot of stuff. So I don't know what in the world they're going to do with her in this season, because just like the last 2 seasons, they're making up 90% of what she does. Now we have another look at Triss. Her hair's slightly more red this time, less dreadlocky, a little bit more curly. Her hair looks better, but this is still a bad actress for Triss in my opinion. She seems very flat, very wooden, and not fiery and fun like Triss should be. So still a problem, but overall her hair looks better, the set looks cheap, and her dress looks cheap. Everything in these pictures looks so very, very cheap despite the massive price tag that we know this series has. But moving on, we have another look at Stregobor, who again should have only been in that first episode and never shown up again from Season 1, Episode 1. That's the only time we should really see Stregobor. I love this actor. This actor is phenomenal, a Mikkelsen brother, but again, he shouldn't be around, so I don't know what he's doing here or what they plan to do with him in this season, because they make up everything with this character thus far. Now we have another look. I believe this is Vilgefortz. Going to be a very, very important character. I'm not sure if it's Vilgefortz, but that is my guess. Just a guess here. But that's what we have for those first mages. Now moving on a little bit to the Redanian Intelligence, we get a couple shots of Dijkstra and Philippa, and if you want to check out, I have a video about the 2 of them and their weird sexual relationship that's already come out, so check out that video. And yeah, just a couple images of them, nothing too exciting, nothing untoward. And we have the elves, we have Francesca, who's still atop over Philibandrel, who's supposed to be the High King of the Elves. He's very depleted, but he's supposed to be the last of the magnificent elves. He's holding on to the past so very hard, but he's just a bottom. He's just a beta male in this series because Francesca's so awesome. Again, these characters are mentioned and they do stuff behind the scenes, but they're not all that prominent in the actual story. They're padding out the story with characters that don't have all that import in the books that we see, taking away from the characters we care about and we do see. That is a big problem with this series, making it more and more non-canonical as we go. Then we have another character. This is a made-up elf. His name is slightly changed from a human boy that Ciri deals with near Aretuza and Gorz Velen, but it's a very minor character that they've made into this black elf from season 1. That's the only connection I can see to a real character, is they changed one letter of his name, but that boy might actually be in season 3 as well because they're going to Aretuza finally. So we'll see how this plays out. Don't know why he's in the story. He's a made-up character, and they've made him so prominent that who knows what his story is going to be in this season. Then we have some main character shots, nothing interesting, nothing that we're not come to expect or seen before, just them being them. And that's all we have for those people, but we have some monsters that we have some first looks at. It looks like the Shalmar is going to be in it. We saw that in the first trailer for season 3, volume 1. It's that roly-poly armadillo-type monster that attacks Ciri in the maze. Doesn't look as good as this, that's for damn sure. And that's a look at it right there. It looks way more cockroachy. And apparently there's going to be Otto the werewolf, who is from Season of Storms, which canonically takes place between the events of The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny. So it should have been slotted in somewhere during season 1. But I guess they'll bring him back. They'll bring him back. And there's going to be some other weird stuff going on from the Evil Within type parody. I don't know what in the world that's going to be about. And the Wyvern's going to be in it. Yes, Ciri does fight a Wyvern in the story, but I don't know how well it's going to go in Gorz Velen. We'll see. But there's going to be Wyvern in it. There's going to be the Wild Hunt, the Ashkana, which is a monster that Geralt fights while ferrying some characters on a barge. I believe it's in Blood of Elves, but they're bringing that into this story during the events of Time of Contempt for some random reason. We have a shot of it there. Definitely doesn't look as good. At least they stopped making up monsters. That was a big thing in season 2, is they kept making new monsters, and that was ridiculous. We have a few shots of them here for scale. And there's going to be an unnamed sand monster. That's good. The Dryads of Brocculon Forest are coming back, even though they're not canonically like this whatsoever. They just act like elves in the TV show. In season 1, they were just elves. That's not how they should have behaved or looked whatsoever. But let's move on to some more first looks that we have. We have Geralt in Brocculon Forest, where he's going to spend the majority of volume 2, it looks like at this point, healing from injuries he got from the coup at Thanedd. And we have Geralt looking all red-eyed, sunken-cheeked, getting healed by Dandelion or Jaskier. Interesting shot. We have another shot of Milva looking fine. Her costume still looks cheap, but whatever. Then we have some shots of Ciri in the Korath Desert, which I was mentioning, the Southern Nilfgaardian Desert, which is a stand-in for the Sahara, so this is a good location. This looks fine. A lot of these behind the scenes look fine, but this is an interesting example. This is Missile, who is Ciri's lesbian lover, and they've given her bleached white dreadlocks. Now, this is actually one of the few characters that I'm relatively okay with being race swapped, because this is, again, the Southern Nilfgaardian Desert. This is the Sahara, where she roughly meets him just outside the Sahara. And it makes sense for there to be black people there in Southern Nilfgaard, which is, Nilfgaard is very much like Spain. So Southern Nilfgaard would be like the Moors. That would be Morocco. That would be the Sahara. So I'm actually okay with Missile being race swapped. That I'm actually very much okay with. But the look is just really weird and cheap, and I'm sure they're going to bastardize the relationship between Ciri and Missile because, oh, we got to promonize their relationship because it's a lesbian relationship from the books. Now, we have this new character played by Robbie Amell. Don't know how prominent he's going to be, but it's a made-up character as far as I can tell. Another elf probably involved with the Scoia'tael, and we get a shot of the future Lodge of Sorceresses, a bunch of sorceresses that are helping Ciri train at Aretuza. But I want to take a closer look at this image right here. So we have a few different characters here, can't quite tell. I believe that's Yennefer in the back. It's hard to tell. It looks like Triss over here. This one, I believe, is Sabrina Glevesi. Again, not a very prominent character, more prominent in the Witcher 2 video game. Don't know who this one is. Can't tell from this side profile whatsoever, but this one is interesting. This large black woman. In the books, she's described as the most beautiful of the sorceresses. Ciri and Yennefer meet up with her in the bathhouses of Gorz Velen outside of Aretuza while she's naked, bathing in a bathhouse, and Ciri is just baffled by her utter beauty. And they hire someone who looks like Lizzo. And that's a big thing right now is body positivity. So I fully predict that that'll be one of the few canonical scenes that we see, is that she's probably going to be doing full frontal nudity when we meet her. So be prepared for a Lizzo-like person being nude in The Witcher Season 3. I just want everybody to be prepared for that image in your head right now. Probably going to see it. Just wanted to warn you guys. That that's probably going to happen with Margarita. Moving on to the coup at Thanet, that looks like Sabrina Glevisy, another shot at her at the ball. Don't know who that is. The headdress is covering it up. We get a few more shots of everyone at Thanet. This looks like Aretuza, actually, not Thanet. But there's some fighting going on. Geralt at the coup. Philippa talking to Geralt. Francesca dressed up in armor, probably getting ready to attack Thanet. I don't know how they're going to do the Scoia'tael, because that's not how the Scoia'tael attacked Thanet, but who knows. It looks like Cahir in the background, even though he shouldn't really be involved in the story. Cahir is an interesting character because during the events of the first 3 books, he's not in it whatsoever. Ciri has dreams about him in the first novel, In Blood of Elves, but we don't really meet him until Baptism of Fire, which is the next book after this one. But he's been very prominent throughout this series because that's what they're doing with all these side characters, making them prominent, taking away screen time from the characters that we actually care about and actually should have screen time. So it looks like Francesca and Cahir are meeting up for the coup at Thanet. And more stuff from the ball, Looks like Cahir in crappy armor once again. This looks like Geralt meeting up with Vilgefortz during the events of the ball for a political conversation. Don't know what that is. More Geralt. Ciri crying. Probably during the coup at Thanet, I imagine from the coloring of the light, she's probably running away from the coup at Thanet and she's looking towards the Tower of the Gulls. That would be my guess from this shot. And that's all that we have from the coup at Thanet. So that's a lot of behind-the-scenes photos. We have a little bit more from the families, what they're calling it, because at the beginning of the season, apparently at the opening of episode 1 of season 3, Geralt, Ciri, and Yennefer are living an idealistic life on a farm. And they're just all happy together. Oh, isn't so happy? Oh, look, they're playing together. Oh, and they're training. Oh, isn't this so sweet? Oh, this is beautiful. That's what we get for the family from episode 1. And that's all that we have for behind the scenes first looks at some of these characters, some of these monsters, and some of these locations for season 3, both volumes 1 and volume 2. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about all these first looks, all these images. Does this entice you to watch season 3? Or like me, do you think it's going to be an utter and complete disaster? But let me know in the comments down below. That's all I have for today. I will see you guys on the next video. Anon.
Hey, yo, are you feeling what I'm doing up in here? Oh, I know you are. Do you miss all the good, compelling stories that we used to get back in Hollywood that they ain't putting down no more? Oh, I know you missing it. So check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues, baby. Book 1, Down in Flames. Book 2, Apocalypse Then. These are currently on sale. What are you waiting for? Get your hands on them. And we got Book 3, Kill the Dark, is coming down the pipeline. Just wait for all the good stuff that's dropping. You ain't gonna be disappointed, fam.